Prime Day es el 16 y 17 de julio. Con las ofertas épicas exclusivas para miembros Prime, recibe el reconocimiento que tanto mereces.
¡Wow! Gracias. Ni siquiera preparé un discurso. Quisiera agradecer a mi familia, que siempre necesita cosas. También a Sam, mi repartidor, por entregarme todas mis ofertas increíbles tan rápido. ¡Te adoro, Sam! ¡Mua!
Compra ofertas en electrónicos, hogar y más este Prime Day, del 16 al 17 de julio.
Here in America, work is in trouble. We've offshored our manufacturing, sent away good jobs, and lost so much ability to make things. American Giant is a company that's pushing back against this tide. They make high-quality clothing, sweatshirts, jeans, dresses, jackets, and so much more, right here in the USA. Visit American-Giant.com and get 20% off your first order when you use code STAPLE20 at checkout. That's 20% off your first order at American-Giant.com, promo code STAPLE20.
With your host, Andrew Donaldson. This is Heard Tell.
Welcome back to Heard Tell. Okay, he's an old favorite because he knows what's going on, because when he says he heard from so-and-so, it means he talked to him. He's a congressional reporter. He's also a columnist for MSNBC. Also has a great book out, We Are Not Broken. Eric Garcia is back. How are you, sir?
Doing all right. How you doing, Andrew?
Also now he can officially put it on the CV. Gigging musician. Congratulations.
Yeah.
I will be sending you as a present, though, a batch of 9-volt batteries, but we'll tell people about that later on.
We will.
You always got to have 9-volt batteries for the pedals, my friend.
Yes.
You work in Congress. Here's my problem. The way we cover Congress is there's a bunch of people like you and your cohorts who do a lot of the shoe leather reporting, because you're actually in the hallways between the buildings and in the tunnels and talking to these people. And yet we have days like the other day where everybody just wants to cover these hearings, which are total, let's just call them what they are. They're clown shows and nothing's really getting accomplished.
They're dog and pony shows.
Meanwhile, there's a whole lot of really important stuff going on in Congress. That's got to be frustrating for you guys. But as a consumer, tell us, because we can a la carte certain people, we can a la carte certain journalists, but we need to this is a consumer side problem too. It's not just the coverage. We need to do better at what we pay attention to. Yeah.
Yeah, so let's address the elephant in the room, which is that the House has. I mean, and look, let's also attribute blame to Congress, because Congress, particularly Speaker McCarthy, has allowed the freaks to run the show. So you're right. Yes, there is the defense authorization bill, and this is going to be one of many appropriations bills that are going to have to, and spending bills that are going to have to pass to prevent a government shutdown by the end of September. But I think a lot of people are focusing on the hearing on Wednesday with Marjorie Taylor, with the House Oversight Committee and Hunter Biden, which is where Marjorie Taylor Greene posted some really sexually explicit photos of Hunter Biden. And then there was the Robert F. Kennedy Jr. hearing yesterday on Thursday. So yes, it's kind of a la carte, and yes, these are kind of sexy stories. But the big story that I think a lot of people keep selectively, and there are a lot of great reporters who are covering the right stuff, but I think where our attention is going is kind of away from this really important thing, because I think what you're seeing with these spending bills, particularly since Republicans took over the House of Representatives, is they're really trying to enforce their social agenda using government money. So, for example, I think a lot of people might know that right now in Alabama, in the Senate, Senator Tommy Tuberville is holding up military confirmations because he doesn't like a policy where the Pentagon allows people who are stationed in the military in red states to travel to other states for abortions. Republicans in the House basically passed an amendment to get rid of that provision. In the same way you're seeing Republicans use, trying to prevent gender affirming care for veterans, or for active duty service members. So basically they're trying to do that. And then the Senate is basically saying, we are not taking this up. We're going to write our own bill and we're loading it up. We're just going to try to have like a normal NDAA. But a lot of Republicans are going to spit that out because they're going to say this goes against everything that we negotiated in the debt limit.
Yeah, Eric Garcia joining us. Let's just do a big picture because you can get lost in the weeds in this stuff really quick. And there's a lot of great places, a lot of great resources. There's what you do. There's outlets like Punchbowl that does really good in-depth stuff that I read just about every morning now. Basically, there's this NDAA bill. They're going to figure that out because that's a must-pass bill. Then between now and September, there is 12 appropriation bills.
Yes.
So when we're saying government shutdown, it's not one bill. There's 12 bills they've got to pass to get past the government shutdown. That's the next thing coming up. And these things happen in a sequence, not in a vacuum, so we got to back up. One of the things you're starting to hear is McCarthy has gotten some wins, despite what a lot of us thought. I was wrong on some of it. He's gotten some wins. The problem is he gave away a lot of stuff to get those wins. Now he's got a much steeper hill with a lot less capital because he's already given away a lot of what he has to give away. Kind of lay the land on trying to get these 12 bills passed because everybody's putting that overarching term on it, not understanding that there's a 12-step process basically here.
Yes, there is. So one of the things that McCarthy said very explicitly in December when he was trying to get the 218 was he said, we are not going to do an omnibus spending bill. He was really mad that on the Senate side, Senator Richard Shelby and Senator Patrick Leahy basically wrote the omnibus spending bill right as they were leaving the Senate. So what you're seeing now is you're going to see 12 individual spending bills go through. And I always had a feeling that if there was going to be a motion to vacate the chair, it would not be through the debt limit. I always felt it would be through these appropriations bills because that's where the actual challenge of abiding by these new spending cuts will face reality. So there are going to be ones for HHS. There's going to be ones for energy. There's going to be ones for education. There's going to be ones for basically all the 12 departments. And there basically needs to, and long short of it, is that they need to abide by it. And now that even though Republicans, a lot of Republicans didn't like the debt limit agreement, they're going to say you have to abide by these rules and you have to abide by all of the controls that we put in place to give you the speakership.
Yeah, and the other problem he's got now is he can't just do failure theater on this one because the Senate has a whole lot of say on this.
Yes.
The relationship between the GOP House and the GOP Senate, I don't know how you want to qualify it, but it's not good right now.
I would say it's almost non-existent.
That bad? You would go with non-existent.
I think that now take into account the House and the Senate have never really liked each other. There's this old saying that an old Democratic House leader once said, Republicans are the opposition, the enemy is the Senate. But I think that there is very much this feeling on the Senate side from people like Collins and people like Murkowski and people like Graham and even like McConnell, who think that a lot of the proposed defense budget cuts or caps on defense would restrict spending in ways that they don't like. They also don't like the fact that they also want to make sure that there's aid for Ukraine, whereas Kevin McCarthy. So for those who don't know, this is the important part, and you know this when I explain to your readers. Once the House and the Senate both pass their bills, they're going to go into a thing called a conference, and each leader selects members for their conference. So basically, they can come together on a bill, and then they'll vote on it again, and that'll be the one that goes to the White House for signature. Kevin McCarthy put Marjorie Taylor Greene as basically said, you vote on NDAA, I'll give you a conference position. And she said she wants to zero out funding for Ukraine. That is going to be a non-starter for a lot of Senate Republicans. There are going to be plenty of provisions that Republicans, or if they don't like the caps on spending for defense, the Senate is going to let them know, is going to let the House know that no, we are not going to accept this.
Yeah, Eric Garcia joining us, reporter for the Independent. Let's go to the Democratic side for just a second. Where's Schumer right now? He's got the numbers, he's got the majority, but he's also got his two most rebellious senators in name independent, but still caucusing with the Democrats, Kristen Sinema and Joe Manchin. They're both running really tough races that they are not favored to win as of today. Yeah. So he's got to worry about them. Him and Mitch have a good working relationship, despite what you see in the media. They know how to get stuff done.
They do.
But this is a thin majority, and he's got some malcontents. What's he looking at all this? Because we haven't really been talking about the Schumer Senate lately.
Yeah, I mean, because all the for better or for worse, all the entertainment is happening in the House. The thing with the Schumer is that I think that he is very much attempting to keep the heat on Republicans. I think that Schumer probably thinks he realizes he made a mistake by not having the Senate vote on a debt limit bill and allowing McCarthy to have a lot more negotiating power last go around. But I think now he's really trying to advertise that the Senate is not going to do this tomfoolery with the NDAA. We're adults. I can work with McConnell. And to your point about his relationship with McConnell, a lot of people note that he doesn't have as acrimonious a relationship as Reid did with McConnell, because those two, but both of those, Reid and McConnell were professionals, but they were also political pugilists. And Schumer is definitely a fighter in his own sense. But I think the main thing that you're seeing with Schumer is that he's trying at his core to say we're doing our job. We're not having these dog and pony shows, and we are also going to be confirming just a bunch of nominees. Now, the problem for Schumer right now is you mentioned Joe Manchin. Manchin has so far not announced whether he'll seek re-election, but he's of course really mad about the implementation of the IRA. We're approaching the 1-year anniversary of the deal that he brokered with Schumer. So as a result, you're seeing the chuck wagon have to deal with Manchin opposing a lot of nominees. He's come out against Julie Su, who's Biden's labor secretary nominee. You've seen him come out against. You've seen him vote against a few judicial nominees. So you're seeing that, and then on top of that, Sinema. You mentioned she's running for race. Sinema hasn't even announced whether she'll run again. So, but she's being outspent, or I should say, outraised by Ruben Gallego down in Arizona.
Prime Day es el 16 y 17 de julio. Con las ofertas épicas exclusivas para miembros Prime, recibe el reconocimiento que tanto mereces.
¡Wow! Gracias. Ni siquiera preparé un discurso. Quisiera agradecer a mi familia, que siempre necesita cosas. También a Sam, mi repartidor, por entregarme todas mis ofertas increíbles tan rápido. ¡Te adoro, Sam! ¡Mua!
Compra ofertas en electrónicos, hogar y más este Prime Day, del 16 al 17 de julio.
Everyone knows therapy is great for solving problems, but getting therapy has its own problems too, like finding the right therapist, fitting into their schedule, and of course, the cost. Well, BetterHelp can solve those problems. It's totally online and built around your schedule. It's surprisingly affordable too. Connect with a credentialed therapist by phone, video, or online chat, all from the comfort of your home. Visit BetterHelp.com to learn more and save 10% on your first month. That's BetterHelp, H-E-L-P.
Yeah, you just mentioned Biden too, Eric Garcia joining us. There's been some shakeup in the Biden team who handles the way they deal with Congress, both the Senate and the House. Yes. There was criticism there. They've brought in some new people. They've brought in someone who's actually got a pretty decent relationship with Kevin McCarthy, at least on a working level. Is there any hope that this is going to again, the election overshadows all this because, look, especially in the House, they legislate 1 year and they run for office 1 year. This is all you're going to get out of them, whatever they're going to do this year. Yeah. The Biden White House has obviously changed tactics a little bit here. Is that going to make any difference? Is it noticeable?
It will make some difference, I think, on the margins. But again, the House has just a lot more power because the House has the power of the purse, and that's just how the Constitution is set up. But I think that at the end, the Biden White House, there was a lot. I think they listened to some of the criticism from people saying that McCarthy ran circles around them media-wise, but I think that they thought that during the debt limit negotiations, they felt we can't speak too much because we want McCarthy's people, we want Republicans to accept whatever deal that we do. So we don't want to, do a victory lap and then have Republicans feel like they're eating dirt. But I think that there was almost kind of this implicit understanding that the White House will stay quiet, so that House Democrats could bail out McCarthy. In the same respect, I think that they're going to, as you said, it's not going to make much of a difference now. It's really going to make a difference once the election is over, come December, when December 2024, when they have to come to an agreement on raising the debt limit.
Yeah, Eric Garcia. Okay, big question. We don't know all the backroom deals that were involved, but we do know there's pressure. The Republican caucus wants to impeach somebody, whether it's Mayorkas, yes, Garland. A lot of them want Biden. McCarthy's smart enough. He doesn't really want to go down the Biden road. I think he wanted to throw him Mayorkas. I think it's kind of trending maybe towards Garland here. What's the talk on impeachment? Because the Republicans are basically screaming, we're going to impeach somebody or we're going to take somebody out. Is that what you're hearing there too?
Yes. So this is the big divide that you're seeing. So incidentally enough, last month I was talking with Marjorie Taylor Greene, and this was during the divide over whether Lauren Boebert or Marjorie Taylor Greene's vote to impeach Biden would come through. Marjorie Taylor Greene basically said, hey, look, this is the price. This is my price for voting for McCarthy for Speaker. And this is my price for voting for that debt limit bill. So I think that at this point, it's starting to lean more toward Garland, just given the indictments against President Trump and against, there was the first indictment that happened in June, and then there's now looks like he's the recipient of a target letter that for his actions on January 6th. So it looks like it's leaning more toward Garland these days. I think that McCarthy and Republican leadership realize that a Biden impeachment is forcing their frontliners to walk the plank. And your job as Speaker, you have a lot of jobs as Speaker, but one of your main jobs is to protect your majority. And you only force your frontliners to take so many tough votes as possible. And that was something that Pelosi learned when she had the vote on Obamacare. And I would actually argue Waxman-Markey was a bigger issue for a lot of frontline Democrats back in 2010. But in the same respect, he also recognizes that he has to do what he can to protect these frontliners, but he doesn't have the margins that Pelosi did, or that even Ryan did, or even Boehner did back in the days.
Yeah, real quick along those same lines, though, is this impeachment expungement nonsense actually going to make it to the floor or not? Because McCarthy looked like he said it one way and then he said it another way. There was some coverage of that. They're not going to really try to do something that's that much of a ready-made campaign ad, are they?
That would be it. I think McCarthy recognizes that would be an electoral disaster. There are many criticisms of Kevin McCarthy, many of them I've made, but one of them is that he actually does keep an eye on how districts are working and how districts are acting. And he's an absolute political junkie. But I think that he recognizes that this would be suicide for frontliners, and his frontliners and people like the moderates or the problem solvers have said this will kill us. So I don't think that he would go down that route, even though someone like Elise Stefanik would very much like to, and Marjorie Taylor Greene would very much like to. But I think that he's recognizing, he's trying to do with the wink and a nod, saying, I would like to do this, but we just can't do it. And I think that you're seeing that, and I think that's the way he's going to split the difference.
Yeah, and walking that tightrope will get real interesting if Trump becomes the nominee. So we'll keep an eye on that. Eric Garcia carving out a few minutes in his very busy schedule for us. We appreciate it. Let folks know where they can keep up with you, because you're writing at the Independent, you're writing for MSNBC, you're covering Congress, you're playing music, you've got a book out that's in paperback now. Tell folks where they can keep up with you, my friend.
You can follow me on Twitter at Eric M. Garcia. You can follow me on Threads at Eric M. Garcia 14. You can follow me on Blue Sky, Eric M. Garcia. You can buy my book, We're Not Broken, Changing the Autism Conversation. And it's always great.
You do great work, sir. Appreciate your time. We'll keep having you on. Welcome back. Talk soon.
See you.
Prime Day es el 16 y 17 de julio. Con las ofertas épicas exclusivas para miembros Prime, recibe el reconocimiento que tanto mereces.
¡Wow! Gracias. Ni siquiera preparé un discurso. Quisiera agradecer a mi familia, que siempre necesita cosas. También a Sam, mi repartidor, por entregarme todas mis ofertas increíbles tan rápido. ¡Te adoro, Sam! ¡Mua!
Compra ofertas en electrónicos, hogar y más este Prime Day, del 16 al 17 de julio.
Folks, if you've listened to the Heard Tell program, you've heard our friend Gabriella Hoffman, but you need to make sure you're checking out her podcast, District of Conservation. It's a podcast exploring the nuances of true conservation efforts from D.C. and beyond. From topic discussions to exclusive interviews with conservation and energy newsmakers, Gabriella keeps listeners appraised of the latest news stories while elevating important voices. Listen to the District of Conservation on Apple Podcasts or wherever podcasts are played. Folks, you've heard of Ethan Brown on the Heard Tell show a couple of different times, but if you're interested in learning about how to discuss things like climate change without all the politics and doom and gloom, head over to his podcast, The Sweaty Penguin. Sweaty Penguin is a late-night comedy-style climate podcast working to add nuance, critical thinking, humor, and hope to the climate conversation. They got over 100 episodes already, breaking down weekly news stories and specific topics, from the vanilla to the ADHD to the international accountability to orangutans. Yes, I know, it's a comedy thing, so just go with it. But each time, exploring different ways we can make progress on these issues while still helping the economy, health, security, and everything else we care about. Feel overwhelmed, exhausted, or excluded by today's climate change discourse? This is the podcast for you. Find The Sweaty Penguin wherever you get your podcasts or at www.thesweatypenguin.com.